name is Rusty Humphreys, and this is the soon-to-be titled program. I call it the Nisha Jackson Show, but she doesn't. You don't want to call it that, right? You want to call it something else soon?
That's right.
All right, we're going to come up with something cool. Like,
Yeah.
what are you thinking about we should call it? Do you have a couple of ideas going on?
I have no ideas. I don't know. Maybe we should ask the audience sometime. They're like, send some ideas in. I mean, the Nisha Jackson Show's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay, but I think it should be a little bit jazzier than that. Something a little bit more exciting than that.
How about the Nisha Jackson Happy Hormone Show?
Oh, sure. That sounds great.
These are just ideas. Not all of them are gold.
No, but then dudes wouldn't the dudes wouldn't tune in because they'd be like, oh, it's all that hormone stuff. That must be like for women.
Well, that's true. That's true. All right. Well, we're just getting started with this program. Last week we just kind of introduced the show and kind of introduced Nisha, but we're going to introduce her more and not just talk about her book. We're going to talk about different topics every week so that you can learn stuff. Like, for example, I've been trying to get a hold of Nisha for the past couple of weeks, and she's all over the place. And I'm guessing the word that you might use for yourself is stressed?
I have a very dynamic life.
Okay.
I'm a stress expert in my that's one of my that is my expertise in the medical field is stress. But I don't really like to say that I'm stressed.
Okay, why?
Because I feel that I have learned how to manage my body's response to stress.
Well,
And
isn't stress just something that you feel, and when you're having a bad day, you just kind of feel stressed?
Yes, you can feel it. And that's definitely what I want to talk about today is what is stress doing to your body to make you feel poor? Because I think too many people, Rusty, are not connecting the dots.
Okay.
They're not connecting the dots, meaning when they wake up in the morning and they feel like they were hit by a train, they're not connecting the dots that has something to do with how their body is not managing the stress well and how the stress is affecting them physically. Okay. They're not connecting the dots. They just thought, well, maybe I didn't sleep well. Maybe I'm dealing with some emotional issues. Maybe there's something wrong with me. I mean, maybe there's something really wrong with me. And they don't really go to the most obvious thing, which is the body is not responding well because it's going into preservation mode. It's going into trying to heal the person because they're overly stressed. So I want to talk about what does that even mean?
Well, yeah, because I mean, don't you just say, quit stressing out. You got to get over it.
Yes, I know. And I think that's the problem, Rusty, is we all just keep pushing through it thinking we got to keep going because no one can just take a little stress break. Who takes a stress break?
Right.
Hardly anyone takes a stress break. We're not taking siestas in the afternoon.
But that's what a vacation's for. You get 2 of them a year sometimes.
I know, but
unless you're Nisha, you get 10 a year.
Look at how people vacation these days. It's like action packed. It's stressing them even more. It's crazy. So, and there's not enough of them, by the way.
Okay.
So,
are we more stressed out now? I mean, kids, there's songs about being stressed out, and kids are telling us that they're more stressed out, and things are just different than when we were growing up. Is it worse now?
Yes. You know, it's funny. I remember the front cover of Time magazine, 1981, circa 1981. And on the front cover of Time magazine is this picture of this crazy guy. You know, he's like, he's like totally stressed, right?
Right.
And it says stress, caption, stress, an all-time high. Okay, let's just, for those who were alive in 1981, let's just think about how the world was in 1981 compared to now. Mm-hmm. We didn't have cell phones. We weren't working on computers, or very, very few computers. We had access to computers. We had hardly any devices. Right. And we were not plugged in like we're plugged in now. Our life we didn't have as many options and distractions and sensory overload like what we have now. We did not have the ability to be as plugged in as we are now. Our life was not as busy and not as full. Now, I think it's interesting that the scientists were thinking that stress was at an all-time high in 1981. So here we are today with our schedules completely packed, men and women working more than ever before, and our diet is toxic, our sleep patterns are hideous, and we are trying to have children do the most that they could possibly do in school, plugged into all sorts of activities. So then we're running around trying to be the best mom or the best dad, trying to work ridiculous hours, climbing corporate ladders, doing all these things, and then constantly plugged into social media and things like this,
Right.
and phones, and it's a lot. So yeah, our world is different, and it's difficult to stay in the game with that much coming into our brains and our bodies all day long.
Okay, so
It's
what do we do? Is it okay? You want us to eat better? Okay, what? Cut down on the pepperoni and the pizza. I mean, what? Where do you start?
right. Well, first of all, I think that the most important thing, and the reason why I wrote my most recent book called Brilliant Burnout, the most important thing is to try to understand what is happening to your body when you're overly stressed. Now, I'm talking about when I say overly stressed, I guess I probably should try to explain this. When you are overly stressed, what's happening is it could be something like one huge emotional event, like your mother died, you went through a divorce, you lost your job and do not know how you're going to pay your mortgage payment. Your child becomes very sick and the medical bills rack up. It could be one large, really awful emotional event, or it could be that you're just burning the candle at both ends, at all ends,
Hmm.
for a long period of time, maybe 3 or 4 years. It could be that you started having a lot of emotional stress as a teenager because of the situation that you were living in, or a child. So what happens is your body produces, I'm going to make it super simple. Your body produces adrenaline, right?
Okay.
Or cortisol to help your body manage stress. We make stress hormones from our little baby adrenal glands that sit up on top of the kidneys. They make hundreds of hormones and steroids to help you get through your day. So let's say in the morning you wake up, you make a lot of cortisol. The cortisol is what wakes you up. People think cortisol is bad because it's gotten, a lot of a lot of press lately in the last couple of years. But cortisol, you'd be dead without cortisol. So cortisol gets you out of bed in the morning.
Hmm.
It turns your brain on. It helps you focus. It gets you charged up for your day. So your cortisol should be really high in the morning. And then it should kind of gradually go down as the day goes on, so that when you get to the evening, as you're winding down, but most people don't,
Okay.
you're winding down in the evening and your cortisol is coming down and your body's kind of getting a little bit more tired. And then your cortisol should be dead low so that you can turn your brain off and go to sleep. So unfortunately, Rusty, what happens is that the way that we push ourselves today, with a very packed schedule, and I'm going to say hurried schedule, where you're kind of like packing things one right after the other.
Hmm.
You're calling for a lot of adrenaline and cortisol to get you from one event to the next event. And after a while, your body says, listen, lady or mister, I cannot keep up with your demands of how much cortisol and adrenaline you need. So I'm just going to like kind of cut it back a little bit. I'm going to cut back the production of cortisol and adrenaline. Now I'm simplifying it,
Right.
grossly simplifying this,
Sure.
but I'm going to cut it back so that you can slow down. Now you're not going to feel so good, because what's going to happen is you're going to wake up feeling tired and unrested, because now the cortisol's low in the morning, so you don't feel sharp and ready to get out of bed like you just had 4 cups of coffee.
Hmm.
And you're going to be more tired. You're probably going to experience some weight gain. You're probably going to have to feel like you need to take a nap in the afternoon. Basically, it's like turning your whole engine down. So this is what your body does in order to slow you down, to conserve, so that you can make it for a longer period of time.
Hmm.
But the problem is then what happens is you don't feel well. You wake up in the morning feeling tired. You're hitting the wall in the afternoon. You're craving sugar and salt. You start using alcohol and food and drugs in the evening. Then you start using medication to sleep at night. You're using medication to calm you down. People are irritating you. Even the smallest things start irritating you. You find that you're more negative, your ambition is lower, you're not feeling supported by people. And then you're starting to wonder what's happening with my memory and my concentration. I can't remember even the simplest things like birthdays and certain appointments, and you feel like your brain's kind of scrambled. So these are some of the things that start happening when the stress is affecting the hormones in your body that begins to create symptoms that make you not feel well. So I think that it's really important to understand, and I love to educate people about, once the body gets into a situation where it can't keep up with your demands, it's going to underproduce the hormones that keep you going. And then you don't feel well, but you really do think there's something wrong with you.
Okay,
So
but okay, let me ask you this, because you're talking about how you're supposed to jump out of bed like you had a bunch of coffee. Well, I mean, on every corner you got a Starbucks. Where you're from is where Dutch Bros is from. I mean, it sounds like what you're talking about is not something that anybody's doing, because everybody's on coffee.
Right. Because what happens is, what I just was saying is that when your body cannot keep up with your demands, it cannot sustain the amount of cortisol and adrenaline that you're requiring of it. So it starts underproducing adrenaline and cortisol. All of a sudden you're like, wait, why don't I feel good? And so I'm just going to drink some caffeine because that will give me some cortisol, because actually it does work. Rusty, caffeine does work.
Okay,
It does work.
I'm a big Rockstar energy drink guy. I get that, but
It works.
Okay. So, but you're telling me that maybe I shouldn't need Rockstar energy drinks because maybe I'm stressed out or I don't have enough cortisol. Is that what you're suggesting?
That's right. Your hormones are not balanced, because when you start, I know this sounds so complicated, but when you're under a lot of stress and you cannot produce enough cortisol or adrenaline after a period of time of being under stress, your body underproduces it, and then it starts robbing from the thyroid, and it starts robbing hormones from the sex hormones. So for men, it will take testosterone and convert it to cortisol. So because you would be dead without cortisol, but you are not going to die without testosterone. You'll just feel like crap, but you're not going to be dead. So that's sort of the hormone cascade that happens.
Okay, can I go buy cortisol at the store and then I don't need to have energy drinks?
No, your body can make cortisol, but you have to give it what it needs in order to make cortisol. So that's what my clinics are all about. This is what this book is all about, is if y'all would just give your body what it needs in order to make more adrenal hormones, stress hormones, it would quit robbing from the thyroid and quit robbing from testosterone or estrogen from women, and your body would work in harmony better.
Okay, does everybody have the same issue? Okay, does everybody have the same problem? Is it take this medicine and this and this and everybody's the same, or is it different for everybody, and how do you figure that out?
That's what I love about my job, is everybody is different. Every single person has a completely individual hormone profile. So it's really complex when you think about it. What you can't do is you cannot operate on 4 hours of sleep a night. You cannot eat sugar and flour and junk food all day. And then you cannot not take breaks during the day.
What do you, I don't understand what you're talking about. What?
Oh, get rid of.
Why? What's wrong with it? It's just cherry Coke. It's the real thing.
Oh my gosh, look at that. Anything that you can't see through, you should not be drinking.
Really?
Look at that.
But it's only 260 calories for a bottle.
That is toxic chemicals.
Really? I haven't drank one of these in a long time. I kind of pulled it out just to give you the business. But it is stuff like this that's having an issue, right?
That's right. And that is the thing that people don't understand, is that unless you're doing the basics, like you are giving your body what it needs. I mean, let's face it, you would not try to run a car that has never had a tune-up, has never had a service, and doesn't have the right kind of gas, and expect it to perform.
Right.
It's not going to work. And so you have to do some basic things in order to give yourself what you need to stay in the game.
Okay,
Like
you just said a moment ago you shouldn't drink anything you can't see through. You can't see
I,
through coffee, and people are
I was
drinking
gonna
that every
okay.
day.
No. I'm gonna rephrase that. Coffee's okay as
Is
long as you don't put a bunch of sugar in it.
How about tea? Those kind of things are okay. I've heard studies that coffee's pretty good for you, right?
I'm not gonna bash coffee. I'm not gonna bash coffee, and I'm not gonna bash chocolate.
I bet
I
you're
may
not.
I may give a little pass to tequila. No, okay.
I've heard that tequila's actually there is some health benefits to that. Is that true? Takes away
I
stress.
think so.
Woo!
I'm gonna say there is.
Other than rest and eating right, is there I get I'm working with you in the past because I've talked about this before. I've worked with you, and that's why I know how good you are. So I've had to take blood tests, and then you've kind of gone through and looked. Is that kind of what you suggest everybody do? They need to get a blood test to figure out what may be wrong with them?
Well, it does help. I mean, certainly there are many things which we'll talk about even in this show. There's many things that you can do to get your body back on track and to fix this rhythm, this cortisol rhythm that I was talking about a little bit ago, is to get that rhythm back so you have good cortisol during the day where it's optimal, it's high. Not too high, but high enough to get you out of bed and make you feel sharp and focused and good concentration and be able to physically manage the stressors of the day, and then dead low at night so you can turn your brain off and go to sleep. So certainly there's many things that you can do even without getting a blood test. The blood test is interesting because it looks at everything. The way we do the blood work in our offices, it looks at everything. So it looks at the adrenal hormones, the stress hormones. It looks at the female and male hormones. It looks at the thyroid hormones and some of the nutrient levels that are really important for being optimal in order to help you feel well. And I'm not just talking about just for stress. I'm talking about trying to help your body age better with less age-related illnesses. But certainly that's something we do in the medical office is look at that whole profile. And then we go to work like, okay, what's happening with your sleep? Because if you're not getting deep restorative sleep, then you're not going to be able to function very well the next day. Because when you're sleeping, Rusty, particularly between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., some experts say 1 a.m., is really when you're making human growth hormone. And human growth hormone is a hormone of aging. And so you don't want to run out of that hormone too soon. Otherwise, you're going to look 80 when you're 50.
Now some people like our friend Suzanne Summers, for example, and you and I have spent a lot of time with Suzanne. She's a big advocate of, injecting human growth hormone. And when I worked with you, I was working with Suzanne too. You weren't a big fan of that. Is that correct? Or have you changed your mind?
No, there's definitely a place for human growth hormone for some people who are deficient and it cannot be fixed any other way. But human growth hormone can naturally be produced if you give your body what it needs for most people. So I have found when you balance that endocrine system that I was just talking about, the thyroid, the male and female hormones, the brain chemistry, and you start changing your lifestyle habits, you start making more human growth hormone on your own, and then you don't have to do the daily, very expensive injections.
Okay.
So I do think it's better to start with those things because many times you can avoid having to go to the daily injection route.
Okay. In your book, Brilliant Burnout, how successful driven women can stay in the game by rewiring their bodies, brains, and hormones, which you can see on the screen right now if you're watching us. If you're listening, you can't see it, but whatever. Anyway, in that book, you talk about how to get rid of stress and things. Is that correct? Is that a good place to start?
Yes. So the book was written for women because I just believe this world needs brilliant women to stay in the game.
So it's not that you're a man hater.
I love men.
Okay, just making sure.
I do. I really do love men. I'm very passionate about women. I've worked with women my entire career, 30 years, and I love working with women. I think they're dynamic, and I think women deserve to feel well longer. And I think that women's hormones are very complex, and a lot of medical providers today don't explain it to women, and they're not testing them. They're putting them on medication. I'm not going to generalize, But often they go in with, let's say they go in with insomnia, or they go in with anxiety, or they're going in with migraine headaches, or they're gaining all this weight. They just feel terrible. And instead of looking at the whole system, so looking at the adrenals, the thyroid, the female hormones, the digestion, instead of looking at the whole body, they say, oh, you're probably depressed. Let's put you on an antidepressant.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're probably anxious. Let's put you on an anti-anxiety. If you're not sleeping, let's put you on something to sleep. So all of a sudden you're taking all of these medications, which unfortunately all have side effects. And a lot of the side effects are that they're killing your own hormone balance. So then it just makes everything worse. So I just think women deserve, and the reason why I wrote the book, women deserve better answers than that. Like, tell me why this is happening. What is the underlying reason for this so that I can fix it and not become dependent on medication that has side effects, that are going to cause more problems in the long run. Tell me what the problem is and how to fix it. So
Right.
that's what the book is about.
And that's what the book is about. But if you're somebody like I've been and really wanted to get more in depth, going to one of your clinics is probably a pretty good idea.
Yes.
You used to have to go to just only Southern Oregon, the Medford, Oregon area. And most people, what's a Medford? And why you're there, I don't know. But you're expanding, having a lot more clinics because you're helping a lot more people. So where else can we go and find your clinics?
Yes. So if you go to the website Peak, PEAK, as if you've reached the peak, peakmedicalclinic.com. It lists the website, the clinic sites there. You can identify maybe an area that we're just opening in Dallas. We're opening in Montana this late summer. In Southern California, and then mostly in Oregon, and we're looking at Northern California also.
So Peak Medical Clinic is the website, and there you can find out where to go and why are you expanding so much? Is it just more and more people are wanting it?
It's kind of a crazy thing because I really shouldn't be working this hard, especially since I'm so passionate about managing stress. But I just really strongly feel that people need more access to this type of medicine. I really am passionate. If I could have this clinic in every city in the United States, I'd be thrilled.
Yeah.
That's not going to be possible. So we do quite a few remote consults. So people that want us to look at their medical tests, if they don't have access to come see us at one of our clinics, we can recommend certain tests that they should get. They can get them at their own medical practices that they're going to. Then we can consult with them directly or with their own medical provider on what to do.
Do regular doctors like what you do, or does it drive them crazy? They don't want to hear. Don't listen to that, Nisha. I got pharmaceutical drugs, and the pharmaceutical company's been working with me for years.
Yes, we have both.
Okay.
And I'm just old enough and just smart enough to know that that's the way it's going to be, because whenever you're making a difference in people's health, like whenever you're really helping people, somebody's going to be taking a shot at you because it works. So I'm just smart enough to know that that's the way it is.
I'll tell you what a doctor told me one time. I'm very curious what you think. He was a surgeon, and he had to cut my neck up and save my life. Anyway, I said, what do you think of alternative stuff? And he says, well, my sister works at a pharmaceutical company. He says, the alternative stuff is just, plants and stuff. The stuff that the pharmaceutical companies are doing is just more high dosages. They just do a better job of taking those plants and making them higher dosages.
Wow. Well, there is some truth to that.
Okay.
But I don't really worry about what people are saying. Okay. I don't worry about what medical professionals think. I will say that this area of medicine is emerging at record speed right now. I mean, it is emerging. We're hearing more and more about stress. We're hearing more and more about how important diet is and reducing inflammation, but through our diet and our lifestyle habits. We're learning a lot more about how sleep and lack of sleep kills you. 10 years off your life with less than 6 hours of sleep at night.
Wow.
So we're starting to hear more of that, and that's all good. We're starting to really understand that, hey, maybe we should help preserve the body as people age and restore their hormones as they age. So these things are really starting to come out, and more medical professionals are grabbing onto this, saying, you know what, that's why I'm in medicine. I'm in medicine to do good to my patient, to help my patient be healthy. And so I think that there's maybe becoming a little bit of, I'm going to say, a division in medicine, where there's the 10-minute office visit and another prescription. That's one area that I think medicine, this division is happening, where medicine is going in that area. But also this division is also, there's more and more medical professionals that are saying, you know what, I want to make a difference in how my patients feel and how my patients' health progresses as they age. I would like to give them and help them understand what they need to stay in the game longer and healthier. I want them to feel great when they're 80. I don't want them to be so ridden with arthritis and dementia that they can't function. Why don't we give them what they need to live longer and live better?
Well,
so that's just the way, that's what's happening today.
And I love that you're at the forefront of this stuff, and I'm so excited about doing this show with you every week. And we've got so many different topics. I mean, we're going to talk about everything. Stem cells would be a nice subject to kind of toss into this particular mix today. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we could be talking about, but we're going to kind of focus on one each week and kind of get in depth and then move on to the next one next week, because I kind of want to build up a library of your knowledge, Nisha, so people can just kind of easily go and look into it.
That's right. Absolutely.
Well, let's see. So nishajackson.com is your website.
That's right.
Or Peak
Medical Clinic.
peakmedicalclinic.com. Go there. We have it all there on the bottom of the screen. You can find out more, and you can find this video podcast on Twitter, on Facebook, on Roku, Apple TV, YouTube. You'll be able to hear the audio. The audio is available. You're probably listening to that right now. iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play. It's all over the place. And anytime you want to hear the program, and we're going to every week have another one, we're going to try to find a specific day. You'll start noticing that pretty soon. For example, every Wednesday, the show may come up. But we're still heck, we don't even know the name of the show yet. We're still working on that. But I just wanted to get Nisha out there because she's traveling all over the world, and I wanted to get a couple of shows so you could listen to them, and then we're going to start getting more consistent. But Nisha, as always, you are awesome. The name of the book is Brilliant Burnout: How Successful Driven Women Can Stay in the Game by Rewiring Their Bodies, Brains, and Hormones. And is there anything else you want to get off your chest before we close her out for this edition?
Okay. 2 things I want to get off my chest. Number one.
Yes.
Please start sleeping deeper and longer. Okay, that's the number one.
Well, that sounds easy. What, you want to take an Ambien?
That is the number one most important thing for restoring your body's ability to manage stress, is you got to get to sleep earlier. So get off your computer an hour before you go to bed. Just turn it off, put your phone aside, get your devices off your body. Slow down. It's like going back to what you did with when your kids were little, is rubbing their back and turning down the lights and playing the music softly and giving them a bath, and maybe putting some herbs in a bathtub and taking a bath. Calm your body down so you can train your brain to know it's time to go to sleep, because you got to get to sleep by 10 or 11 p.m. if you can.
Okay. Because
that's when you're making the hormones that are going to help you function better the next day. You've got to restore. So that's the most important thing, is to get to sleep.
And what about taking a good Ambien at nighttime? Is that a good idea?
Well, if you have a sleep problem, it needs to be fixed. And I don't even care if you take an Ambien, but you've got to get to sleep.
You don't care if I hear Ambien's like the worst thing ever. I mean, it's like great. It's not worse than this.
It's not worse than that, but it's not great, because it's not great. But I want to tell you that if you're not sleeping, you will die early and you will not function well. And it's just a cascade of problems.
Okay.
So sometimes, Rusty, we do have to intervene with sleeping medications to break the cycle. But if you stay with us in this program, we're going to teach you how to sleep and how to fix your cortisol level so your brain can turn off and go to sleep into deep restorative sleep, because that is the most important thing to recover from stress.
All right, let me ask you, because we'll do a sleep segment probably coming up pretty soon.
Yes.
Until then, melatonin, what do you suggest? Turn off the devices, take a bath.
So I recommend the first thing, anyone that's under a lot of stress, which is probably pretty much everybody today, and these supplements are very effective even with younger people. Taking a supplement, which is called, we call it Stress AM. So it's a daytime stress supplement. It's natural. They're adaptogens. They'll bring up your cortisol or reduce your cortisol depending on what the problem is. Most of the time you need to actually bring it up a little bit during the day. And then at night, it helps the PM stress. So we have one for the day and one for the night. It blunts the cortisol so you can turn your brain off. Because the problem is, for most people with the inability to sleep, they can't turn their brain off. They're like buzzing. They're exhausted, but they can't turn their brain off. Or they go to sleep and they wake up 2 hours later and they're completely wired in their brain. Not physically, but in their brain.
Okay, so you've got these two supplements that you've personally designed these, right?
I designed them, formulated it, and take them.
Okay, where do I get these?
You can get those on the Peak Medical Clinic website, or just nishajackson.com will take you to that.
Okay.
So that is really helpful to at least start the process of giving your body what it needs to function at a very high level of stress. And again, it could be a 15-year-old child that's not going to sleep at night because they're wired too in the brain. The problem is
because they're watching YouTube all night.
Yes, and if you don't turn your brain off and go to sleep, you're going to wake up with too little cortisol and wondering why you can't concentrate in school or why you can't concentrate at work. So you've got to fix that. And sleeping is important, but these two supplements recalibrate that cortisol rhythm, which I think it's fundamental. It's foundation for fixing the stress.
Okay. All right, so
that's what I had to get off my chest.
Okay, that's good. That's really good.
Yes.
So again, the name of those products, and again, you're not. I know. Here's the thing: Nisha hates that kind of thing where she's pushing products. That's not what this program's about. But this stuff is really, really important. So, what are the name of those things again?
Stress AM and Stress PM. It's really easy to remember. It's just a stress supplement.
Okay. Is there something different in each one of them? I mean, couldn't I just take Stress AM at nighttime, or is it different?
Yeah, you got to take the AM during the day and the PM at night, just because they're meant to fix that cortisol rhythm that is so important in order to have your body to feel well during the day and rested at night.
All right, so go get that at
sleep.
NishaJackson.com. That's NishaJackson.com. The book is Brilliant Burnout. You can see it right there on the screen if you're watching. Brilliant Burnout: How Successful Driven Women Can Stay in the Game by Rewiring Their Bodies, Brains, and Hormones, by Nisha Jackson, PhD. And it's a great book, and you should check it out. You should go get it, and we will be back next week with another show. Any idea what you're going to talk about, or you're going to travel the world and kind of something will click for you?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a surprise, but it'll be something that's going to be very helpful. I know, very helpful.
Very, very helpful. Is very good.
It'll be very exciting.
All right, Nisha Jackson is awesome. Check her out, NishaJackson.com, and we will see you next time. My name is Rusty Humphries. Thanks for being here on the soon-to-be-named Nisha Jackson Show.